Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to the February Libraries Connecting Texas E-Rate conference call. I'm Mel Van Patten. I'm joined on either side. I've got Leanne Cooper and Jennifer Raby. And also on the line, we have, I'm sorry, you can't see me because I'm not sharing my camera, but if I do, you would have seen me point to Leanne and Jennifer. I'm Mel, and we are also joined by Caroline Wolf. A little bit of housekeeping for today's call. I have muted everybody on the call, but if you have a question, we encourage your participation. So please feel free to use the chat box in the GoToMeeting toolbar. And we love to hear your feedback. So we are recording today's call, and it will be available, the archive version, later on this afternoon. So Caroline will send that out to the group. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Caroline.
Thanks, Mel. Thank you for your introduction. I want to welcome everyone to the call. Sometimes Henry is on the call. He's not going to be on the call today, but we're going to give you a few little tidbits, some new information that hopefully will be helpful to you. First of all, I wanted to give you an update on the status of the Group 1 libraries. The Group 1 libraries are the libraries who've been participating in the Libraries Connecting Texas program since last year, which was the first year of the program. Actually, overall, we have about 35% of all of the libraries in Group 1 and Group 2 have already certified their Forms 471. So congratulations to you if you have already certified your Form 471. We have 33% of Group 1 libraries have certified their 471s. And that leaves 62% of you who still need to file their Forms 471. So I'm going to encourage all of you to move forward in the process. I think we only have about 5 libraries who are still waiting for their allowable contract dates. So that means that the rest of you either have a multi-year contract or you've already reached your allowable contract date. So I encourage you to gather all of your responses to the Form 470 and start the evaluation process. If you're having trouble, if you're stuck with the evaluation process, please reach out to us and we're happy to provide some support to you. Mel, do you want to talk a little bit about the Group 2 libraries?
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Well, Group 2, as you said, is rolling right along about the same pace as the Group 1 libraries. Group 2 has a total of 63 libraries participating. Of those libraries, 11 have certified Forms 471. So the majority of you, or 52 libraries, have yet to file the 471. If we look a little bit deeper, we've got 17 libraries from whom we are waiting documentation, and that could be a signed award letter or a contract. To put it into perspective, we have 27 days remaining in the Form 471 filing window. Those 27 days include weekends as well. So we are really ramping up our outreach to the libraries. If we ask for documentation, please let us know when we can expect to receive it from you. Jennifer's been doing majority of the outreach and doing a great job. And if you have questions on what's expected from you, then give us a call. We want to answer your questions. We want to help you succeed and get across that finish line to a certified Form 471. Just a little look at dollar amounts coming out of the Group 2 libraries. Again, keep in mind, you know, we're pretty early into the numbers of 471s filed, but the total C1 funding requested to date is almost $80,000. The total amount for Category 2 funding for equipment and maintenance service is about $41,000. Our average bandwidth for the new bandwidth from these libraries is about 245 megabits per second. So it's really exciting to see these libraries, Caroline, meet the FCC's targeted bandwidth of a minimum of 100 megabits.
That's really exciting. I love hearing success stories. So for all of you who have some great success stories, we would love to hear how the increased bandwidth has helped your library. So many libraries are struggling right now to provide enough bandwidth for their patrons to connect and to do homework and things like that. I know it's really frustrating, and the cost per megabyte is going down. So that's really exciting to hear about Group 2. Group 1 has a similar story. I just wanted to also let you know the update on subsidies. We understand from Henry Stokes that the State Library is providing subsidies again this year. For Group 2 libraries, you're sort of in the same position that Group 1 was in last year. You're supported for your non-discounted portion for all of your Category 1 and Category 2 services. And for the Group 1 libraries, those of you who increased your bandwidth this year, that means if you are currently at below 100 megs and you want to go ahead and bump up to 100 megs or higher, or even higher than that, the State Library will provide some subsidies for your non-discounted portion of Category 1 and Category 2. This is to allow those who want to increase to go ahead and increase and have those subsidies. There are some.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Go ahead, Mel.
That's a really great update to the LCT program because we were not thinking that there would be state stipend for bandwidth increases for Group 1 libraries. We had a scenario come up, and I wanted to share this question that Jennifer fielded today because it may be impactful to other libraries on the line regarding Category 2 funding or Category 1 funding with ineligible. So we've got a library who was looking at purchasing a substantial Category 2 project through this E-rate. The problem was they were capped by their Category 2 budget at about $80,000, but the overall project was about $126,000. So he had asked whether or not the state stipend would cover the over budget items, to which we answered no at this point. It's going to cover just the non-discounted E-rate portion of an application. So we'll get clarification, but that's how the program ran last year for the Group 1 library. So we'll confirm that. But at this point, you'll have to plan to budget for any items over your Category 2 budget, which will not show up on your Category 2 application.
That's good to know. That's good to know. That's good to know, Mel. Someone on the chat has asked the question. You do contact us if we haven't filed when we should, right? We are sending lots and lots of emails, actually. Both Leanne and Jennifer have been sending a lot of emails and even calling people with lots of reminders. So please do pay attention to your email and messages, because yes, we will definitely let you know if you are in danger of losing funding because you haven't filed yet. We probably will fill in your inbox with reminders. So kind of like this call today, I know that I sent a lot of emails out, but it's good to see that we have 16 people on this call. So I'm wondering if there are any questions about challenges to getting that legally binding agreement in place. And Susan Chandler, you don't understand. I'm trying to figure out what you don't understand. Susan, if you want to elaborate.
My guess, Caroline, may have been a little confused about what I was explaining about Category 2 and Category 2 budgets. And if you were in the Group 1 where you filed for E-rate last year, it's really not applicable. So, and maybe it was a little too in the weeds. I probably should have just, you and I could have talked about that online, but I thought it was kind of an interesting scenario. So yeah, if you're group 1, it doesn't impact you. If you're group 2 and you're only filing for category 1, again, it didn't really impact you at all.
Just a little bit more on that. The category 2 services includes equipment, managed internal broadband services, and basic maintenance. And services in category 2 are subject to a budget that is established using the square footage of your library. So in some cases, a library may go over their category 2 budget if the amount of their project is over what their budget is calculated to be using the square footage. And so what Mel was saying is that the state library will only cover the non-discounted portion of the amount that you're going to be funded for on your category 2 application. So if that's not what you were asking about, then please do submit another question on chat. And we're trying to figure out what the challenges are. If you're having trouble maybe with a city agency or something to try to get your legally binding agreement in place, give us a call and maybe we have some suggestions. So if you have reached your allowable contract date and you maybe don't have any challenges, please put that as a priority and get it over with, and so you're not having to deal with it at the last minute. Just a few things. I wanted to show you some steps. The steps for moving forward and filing your application. And let me try to get it to the right screen. So first you gather your responses to your Form 470. You evaluate the responses using price as the most important factor. We have sent out an evaluation matrix. Most people probably just want to use price as the evaluation factor, but there may be a reason why you want to use other evaluation factors. So if that's the case, we do have some templates that that you can use to use a multi-evaluation factor evaluation. And once you've established who your most cost-effective service provider is, then you commit to a legally binding agreement for 1 or more years, or you document month-to-month charges. In some cases, you really kind of have had an agreement for a while and you didn't get any responses to your Form 470, and there are not any other service providers around, and you just want to stick with the month-to-month. That's okay, but you do have to document that, and we can give you information on how to document those month-to-month charges. Once you have that information and you've decided, you've documented everything, then you'll send the information to us. We'll put the information into your application and send it to you for review of the draft. We ask that you look over the draft, compare it to your current bill and to your contract if you have a new contract, and then make sure that that looks good to you. And once you've decided that, let us know. We'll send it to you for certification, and then you'll certify the Form 471. For those of you who remember or maybe have not seen the Form 471 yet, I'm just going to kind of show y'all what you need to do. I've logged into the USAC training site, and so we are going to actually do most of the stuff that's involved with the Form 471 for you for this year. You know, this is our, at this point, our last year of helping you. So we just want to show you a little bit of how to do this. So I'm going to kind of do a little dummy application here to show you what it means to certify the Form 471. So I'm going to say this is a Category 1 application. And the entity information is in your profile. So for this particular library, the FSCS code and the locale code are not in there, and the associated school district is not in there. So this is, in the event this happens, we're going to get a huge error, a huge error in real life. But for this, I guess for the test site, it doesn't do that. But the locale, just an FYI, the locale code and the square footage are used in EPIC to calculate your Category 2 budget. So that's one reason why we recommend that when you do have the availability to add that information, that you add that into your profile so that it's correct. Yeah, so here's the real life situation. Let me see if it'll let you go forward in here. Nope. So in this case, you would call CSB. And I suspect we're not going to be able to edit it. Well, sorry about that. Let's see. Nope. Well, so what I will do, since this didn't work, is I will send you some screenshots of what you need to do. We actually have some documentation that we can send you regarding, including screenshots of the certifications that you need to certify to for the Form 471, and so that you can kind of know ahead of time what you need to do. I don't know if that's been a challenge for you or if there are any other challenges that you have in filing the Form 471. As I said, we have a lot of libraries. Over 50% of you have not certified your 471s yet. So we'd love to know if there are challenges, or we'd like to see you moving forward. So Mel, do you have anything to add to that?
No, and I do know that Jennifer and Leanne, once they've prepared your Form 471 based upon the signed agreement that you provide us, they are providing step-by-step instructions for how to certify and how to answer those questions. But I think it's really imperative that you read the certifications, read each one. This is a federal program, and so you are agreeing to follow the specific rules. So you want to make sure that you do understand what the rules of the program are, instead of just checking and moving on. So Sydney says, the step-by-step would be a great help. I might not remember next year. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've got a step-by-step that'll take you from the start of the Form 471 all the way through the certification. So we will make sure that we forward that to you as well.
So for those of you who have already filed your 471s, the good news is that most of them are already waive ready. So we're really excited that this year it looks like we're seeing a lot of applications reviewed in advance of the close of the window. And I understand that they might be starting to fund applications as early as April. So that's really exciting news. And we're hoping to see a lot of you move forward soon. Leanne or Jennifer, do you have anything to add or anything you want to say to people who are on the call?
Just look for our emails and continue to send us your documentation. We're happy to prepare your 471s or assist you if you would like to start a draft on your own. But with so many libraries to get through the system before the end of the filing window, Um, we have limited time of getting all of you through it. So the sooner you can respond, it's very helpful to us, especially if you'd like us to draft yours. But you're doing a great job.
I don't have anything to add. I'm pretty much with Leanne, just keep an eye out for my emails, and I know that it takes a little bit of time to get the necessary documentation, but just send it as soon as you get it.
Caroline, for the Group 2 libraries who've not maybe ever participated in E-rate, would you explain how funding is issued, what you meant by funding waived, and what they should do if they get any questions about their applications before they get their funding letter?
That's really a good thing to explain, Mel. As I think most of you now who are on the call and who are participating have had some exposure to the E-rate Productivity Center, which I call it the non-productivity center, but anyway. So applications are filed once they're certified in window, which the 471 has to be filed in a certain window of time. The window opened in January, it closes March 27th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 10:59 our time, Central Time. And so once that happens, all of the applications are deemed to have been filed at the same time. But that's not really the way it works. So once you file your application, there are little elves, reviewers, that we call Program Integrity Assurance, PIA. And those reviewers look at the applications, especially ones that may be outside of the norm, something that they're not sure about, and they'll reach out to the applicant and ask for documentation. So you're going to get an email from your reviewer. It's probably going to be an email from EPIC, and it's going to have a link to EPIC and to PIA questions. Now, I want to remind you that you are the contact on your Form 471. That means you are getting these requests for information. We are monitoring them in the background. We have some ways to know that you're in review, but it's really important that you pay attention, and if you get any emails from EPIC, that you pay attention to them. So if you get any PIA questions, then they're going to be due within 2 weeks. And we will help you submit the answers to those questions. And once they're submitted, if they have any other questions, then they will come for a second round and ask more questions. Once they finish asking the questions, and they finish their review, then it goes to the next stage of the process. There's usually a few stages of review until it gets to waive ready. Waive ready is the final status, and that means it's going to go to a funding waive. So waives begin, like I said, probably in April, and every week there's going to be a batch of 471s approved.
We were doing the waive.
And then the waive. I saw you doing the waive. I love it. We'll be doing the waive and sending out information when your applications get funded, and we'll be cheering for you from our desks. And so once your application is funded, then you'll need to file a Form 486 to let them know that the services have started. So that's usually around July 1st, because that's when services are deemed to have started. That's when your service start date is. That's when your funding year starts. So July 1st through June 30th is the service period, especially for recurring charges like internet access. And the 486 has to be filed before you can start getting your money. So do pay attention to that as well. And then you can start invoicing USAC. Now, if you are planning on using the SPI method, that's the service provider invoice method, and getting discounts on your bill, then you'll need to let your service provider know that you want discounts on your bill so that they can start applying those. If you haven't been funded yet, then it's likely that you'll continue paying your services in full until your funding commitment happens. So if you're starting new services that are higher than what you're paying now, you may want to wait until you get your funding commitment to move forward. That's so that you don't have to pay your monthly charges, your higher monthly charges, completely out of pocket until your funding request is funded. The other thing to remember is if you are moving to a higher bandwidth, it sometimes means that you're going to get a different type of service. Many people are moving from a cable connection or a DSL connection to a dedicated fiber connection. It's a much more efficient way of getting the internet access, and you usually get the same bandwidth up and down. So it's much faster and more efficient. But when you do that, when you do move to the new system, you need to remember to turn off your old system. It's kind of like when you move to a new house, you have to turn off the water before you move to your new house because you don't want your the person you sold your house to be getting water on your dime. So do remember that if you switch to a new service, you want to cut off your old service. I know that there are a couple of people who are still dealing with companies that are billing them for old services. So it's a lesson to learn before it happens. So we're here to answer any of your questions about this process that we can. I know for some people, you know, just dealing with bandwidth and megabits and gigabits is kind of confusing, and it's maybe something that you haven't a concept that you haven't had to deal with before. So feel free to reach out if you don't know what you need to do, and we can send you to the right source. So do we have any more questions from the attendees? I see that Susan said that we did answer her question. Thank you for letting us know that, Susan. I don't see any other questions other than we will be sending out that step-by-step for your certification. I know that that Jennifer and Leanne have been sending out the certification instructions with the email with the draft Form 471. So we definitely have that, and we also have some other materials that we're going to provide for you for resources in the future. Does any of you in North Carolina have anything to add before we close the call?
No, Susan, I see you had another call or another question. It was very specific, so we'll follow up with you right after this call and talk about your particular situation. And don't worry, because Caroline and this group will talk to you more and more about how to make that transition to services as we get closer to the new funding year. We'll also explain how the stipend is going to work for this upcoming year. Make sure that you've got all your documentation to the state in order so that you can receive that stipend. But it's an exciting and busy time for us as we are preparing and working with you to do your E-rate application. So again, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us today, and we look forward to talking with you soon.